Perfect. So we are now recording, but name's Brad Steinberg, co-president of PWS. I know, I see a lot of names on here that I recognize. This is the last of our kind of webinar series that we've had here in the month of September, talking about different topics. And today is a really exciting topic about fundamentals of kind of getting started of wash and fold. So we really kind of started a month-long of events in September. We've had some webinars, we've had some part specials, and we've had some equipment specials. So for those of you who are in the market for any of those, I'll say for parts, take a look. We have a bunch of specials that are going on upcoming this week. And on the equipment side, really for the remainder of September, we have no payments for 6 months, followed by no interest only for 6 months. So really, really incredible financing and some big rebates on Speed Queen equipment. So if you have any interest in any of that, please feel free to email me and let me know, and we can get you set up there. Additionally, we actually, for those of you in Southern California, and actually for those of you across California, this past weekend, I'm sitting in Southgate. That's where our kind of main headquarters are. We moved our parts department, which was currently in our Southgate building, to a space that's about 3 times the size in Downey, not too far down the street. So I know parts is a lot of you, buy parts from PWS. I know there's a lot of issues with back orders, and there's just a lot going on. Our intention is we are already the largest parts distributor in the country, to just grow even bigger there, add more parts. We're adding more personnel. So it's a journey for us. We're definitely not perfect today, but we are trying to invest in really growing the inventory and the resources to help our parts business. So if there's anything I can ever help you with parts, equipment, any questions anybody has, once again, I'm Brad Steinberg. Feel free to reach out anytime. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Matt. And Matt, if you want to unmute yourself, and you can get started here. Everybody, I muted everybody. If anybody has any questions, I think Matt will ask for questions at the end. Feel free to unmute yourself, which is *6. But Matt Simmons is he's one of the owners of Curbside Laundries, which is a software and a POS system that supports the commercial laundry a segment of the business. Also is a laundromat owner. Really, really a special treat to have an expert like this on. One of the best wash and fold people there is in the country. So really a treat. And with that said, Matt, I'll turn it over to you, and you can kind of take it from here.
Great. Thanks, Brad. Yeah, really appreciate it. And thanks all the folks at PWS for giving me the opportunity to speak to everybody here. This is a topic I'm very, very passionate about, which is wash and fold and helping people get started with wash and fold. But it's also focused on helping you grow your business and how to manage the process. So just wanted to, and a little bit of background. So my brother, Aaron Simmons, and myself, we operate Super Suds, which is located over in Long Beach. And so near downtown Long Beach. One moment. So we have had the laundromat for about 20 some years, and anyways, we've taken the wash and fold and grown that exponentially. And I'm going to be talking about how we grew the business and really diving into the nuts and bolts of wash and fold, best practices and everything. And as we grew our business, we needed a system in order to manage the business. And that's where we got into, we developed our own point of sale specifically made for wash and fold. And then we also developed a pickup and delivery app, which made it very easy for customers to schedule their own pickup and deliveries. And then another big part is we provide a website designed just for laundromats that ranks really well for tons of people across the country. And that's an essential part of your wash and fold business, which we'll get into a little bit later. So our website, it's curbsidelaundries.com. I also have some webinars and also a podcast, which, they're short 5-minute vignettes, each with like golden nuggets to kind of take away. And that's at youtube.com/curbsidelaundries. But let's go ahead and get into wash and fold. And it's just been a real blessing it's a great opportunity. So that's our laundromat in the top left corner. So that's Super Suds. And on this chart right over here is the wash and fold revenue. And so that's from 1999 till today. And you could see things were relatively flat for some time. And then around 2010, that's when we got into building a website for our laundromat. And it wasn't even a very good website, but at that time, that's all you needed was a website and being on the map. And then we really fine-tuned the website to get things even better. And now we're doing about $100,000 a month in wash and fold. So about 25% is in-store. So we do about 25,000 a month in in-store wash and fold, and 75% is pickup and delivery. But wash and fold is the centerpiece. And it turned out initially when we were getting started, we had somebody else doing the wash and fold at our laundromat, and they just fed the machines. And it turned out they were stealing from us, which was the biggest blessing ever, because then we took over that side of the business and look at the opportunities. So I really encourage everybody to get into it versus farming it out, because one thing to keep in mind is it's your reputation. If they do a bad job, it's your reputation that suffers. And this is such a revenue opportunity. Another thing to keep in mind is if you are only doing wash and fold without a strong web presence, the most you're going to make, and this is true almost across the entire country, is about $2,500 gross, okay, which isn't really making money after you're paying for the attendant. And so a lot of places in the past, they used to do wash and fold simply to help pay for the attendant. So they were choosing, let's have an attended laundry, and to help pay their wage, we're going to go ahead and offer wash and fold. But I want the people on the webinar who are listening today to take it one step or 10 or 100 steps beyond that, which is to make this a part of your business. And the reason why laundromats typically don't make more than $2,400 or $2,500 a month without a strong web presence is because you're marketing to the wrong people. The people going into your laundromat are spending about 10 or 13 cents a pound, and wash and fold is $1.50 or $1.80 per pound. And so it's just a totally different market. So the way to reach those people is through your web presence, because people are not driving through Long Beach, in our case, looking for a laundromat that does wash and fold. They're online and they're typing in, where do I get my clothes done for me? Where's wash and fold? So you're not even really selling to people. They're already looking for the service. And every month we get about like $2,000 more of people looking for wash and fold. And next month there's going to be another group of people looking for wash and fold. And every month there are people looking for wash and fold, and they're either finding you or your competition. So the reason why I have a hot air balloon on the screen is because on one of the Facebook, or actually the Coin Laundry Association forum, somebody was saying, nobody could find my laundromat. I'm in a terrible location, it's hidden away. But the good news is it doesn't really matter with a web presence. And what people suggested for him was to put a big hot air balloon on top of his laundromat, and so people would see that it's there. So kind of metaphorically, having a strong web presence is that big hot air balloon so people could find you. It's just so essential. And I do recommend people doing a search for yourself and seeing if you could find your laundromat online. And you have to think about it in terms of, what are people looking for? Are they looking for a coin operated laundromat? You want to show up for that, or self-serve laundromat, but do you show up in searches for wash and fold and things like that? So you want to really pay attention. Not only do you show up online, but for what keywords. So if you do a search for wash and fold Long Beach, I highlighted all the search results where Super Suds came up. So these are just things to pay attention to. And this goes a little bit techie, but this right over here is called your meta description. And that is the description for that particular page. That needs to be dialed in too, because people are deciding whether to click on your link depending on whether or not that's a captivating meta description. So think of that as your little commercial. Does that get people to click on your link? So not only do you want to show up, but you want to let them know that you're providing them with something relevant to what they're looking for. All right, so we're gonna, I could do a whole presentation just about marketing and about SEO and keywords and all that stuff. But the real focus of this is about wash and fold. But I just wanted to highlight the importance of your web strategy, your online presence, because that's our number one source of new customers. And so I just have to mention it. One thing over here, this is and just as a little bit of a background, what we did at Super Suds was we went in and paid about $20,000 to $30,000 for a website, which nobody does, no mom and pop laundromat does, but it worked. I mean, that's where we're getting a lot of customers. And what we did was to make that accessible to mom and pop laundromat owners like ourselves, was we basically have the website all designed and dialed in and researched what brings laundromats to the front page of Google. We've already done the hard work. And now basically for pennies on the dollar, we are able to just customize it and localize it for individual laundromats. So in essence, you're getting like a $30,000 website for a couple grand. So that's a little bit of a plug, but that's one of our secret formulas. This right over here is the drop-off counter. Both of them, the top left one was our old drop-off counter. And we did a lot of business through that, but we should have updated it a long time ago. The top right is our new drop-off counter. So this is a centerpiece. You know, this is where people are dropping off their clothes. And that's a whole business unit. So I like to think of the self-serve as one business unit, the in-store wash and fold as another business unit. And then if you get into pickup and delivery, that'd be another one. So one thing, I was reading a book about Steve Jobs, and he said when he designed the Apple stores, he wanted it where you walk into that front door and you should be able to take it all in, you know, where the music section is, you know, where the hardware is, you know, and you don't have to, you're not getting stuck in a maze like you do at a department store in the mall. It's the opposite. So your wash and fold counter should be visible right when you walk in. So you shouldn't have to go look for it, which in the top left corner, it was hidden. I mean, I don't know how we did so well with that, but we're doing better with a better one. And another thing you'll notice is we've got these, a display right there that shows how many pounds and how many dollars, because you're going to get people who drop off their clothes and they say, well, how much is this going to be? And you don't want to ring them up. You just want to give them a quick answer. So you could drop the clothes in the bin, weigh the clothes, and then you could see exactly, oh, it's 10 pounds. That'll be, you know, $20 or $30. So in any case, that's just something handy to have near your drop-off counter, is a quick reference guide just to help customers out. On the new countertop, one thing you'll notice is we use a bin and we put that on top of a scale. So I'll show you a picture of that later, but you'll have to trust me, there's a scale underneath that bin. And we made it lower, kind of like the airport. So there's no reason to sling a big heavy bag over the counter. It helps to just put that bag right on top of that bin. And we use the bin because it just makes it easy to transport the clothes. We basically put an empty bin so it's ready to weigh the clothes. We clear out the tare weight because the bin weighs something. You don't want to charge them for the bin. And then we could take that bin to the back room and store it that way. So we got our point of sales right there, and it just looks a lot more professional, a lot more, because that's a whole business. So get a nice countertop, and you want to really guide people in that direction. This over here is the scale. And so we use the Mettler Toledo or the Rice Lake shipping scale, and it's weights and measured. You need to get one that's weights and measured, so it's legal for trade. And then you also want to make sure you get one that has a USB connectivity. That way you're future-proofing your scale. These scales are expensive. They're precision instruments. You don't just want to drop big weights on them, you know, because that could break the sensors. So, but in any case, you want it to have a USB connectivity So that way, if you do get wash and fold point of sale software, you could just plug the scale into the point of sale. And that's important because anytime there's handwriting, you're going to have mistakes. So again, with handwriting, the weight, this way it's automatic. And then also I've seen it where some laundromats manually entering it in because you're doing this all day. See, it says 22.5 pounds right there. Well, some places, it's easy for the attendant to write 225 and charge that customer $500 to do their laundry. It happens. And then the customer is not too happy, even if you reverse the charge. So a great way to minimize mistakes is to just have everything digital. So the weight is automatically grabbed from the scale. Another thing to pay attention to is the finished product. What does that finished product look like? And I've got a whole podcast episode about what are you selling? Meaning if you look at your Yelp page and your online presence, even your website, a lot of times it's all focused on machines and self-serve, which is great. That's really important. I mean, that's your bread and butter. But if you really want to push wash and fold, you need to show a picture of the finished product because that's part of what you're selling. And on the left is an example of somebody's finished product right there. And that's not quite done right. And I'll show you why. But on the right, that's done really well. So that's one of our clients, the laundry room over in Culver City. And just some differences. On the right, you've got some nice packages. They're not too big. They're easy to carry. If somebody gave you a big, big bag, that might not be so convenient to carry into, to unload and unpack because it's too heavy. So it's nice to use smaller bags that are easily divisible. And then on the left side of what not to do, besides the bag being too big, the clothes aren't really folded too nicely. Okay, they're just kind of thrown in there. And you could see the Calvin Klein undergarments. And again, those are not something you want prominently displayed. So I like, there's a business operator who runs a great route. His name is Kent Wells over in Seattle. And he likes to pack, and I like doing the same thing, the pants and the shorts on the bottom, the unmentionables in the middle, and then on top you have the shirts. And one thing we do as well at supersets for collared shirts is we hang them. So everybody does things differently, but just something to keep in mind. Think about the presentation. How does it look? And we'll go into more detail as far as the packaging and things like that. But that is really important because that's how they're going to judge the product. Another part is you want to wash every order separately. So, that way it's just more, I think, sanitary. It's a benefit to the customer. Sometimes if a customer questions the price, like, why is this so expensive? And you could let them know, it's labor intensive to fold the clothes. It takes a lot of time. And also we wash everybody's orders separately. And that makes people have an aha moment because then they think about, well, maybe that other guy that's 99 cents a pound, maybe they're just throwing everything into the same wash. So I think that is a benefit that helps people stick with your service and not somebody else's. And another thing to keep in mind is how are you folding your clothes? And however you fold them, you should be consistent. If you go to McDonald's, it's always the same and people like that consistency. And the same thing with folding your clothes at your laundromat. So if you're wondering how do you fold the clothes, there are a lot of folding clothes videos on YouTube. Find the ones you like the best and create one for each type of garment and have your attendants watch it or train one and then have that person train your other employees. And it's really important to be consistent because your customers are going to think however you do it, that's the right way. And then if the clothes get done differently next time, the socks are folded differently, the towels are folded differently, they're going to think, wait, what's wrong? Or I want the last person who folded my clothes to do it. So it's really important to keep it consistent. And then in regards to detergents, we're kind of married to Tide, for better or for worse. And so Tide is a great product. It smells good. Customers really like the smell of it. The downside is it's really expensive. And we tried switching one time and we got negative customer feedback. And so I do recommend, if you're just getting started with wash and fold, figure out what type of detergent you're going to use and stick with it, because switching is not easy. And you may want to, if you do offer Tide, maybe make that a premium product where they could pay an extra 25 cents or 15 cents per pound. That's up to you. So that's something you want to be consistent with your detergent, just like you are with the folding. And you also want to offer some options, such as free and clear for people who are hyperallergenic. So if they're allergic to things, you want options there as well. Yeah, and you also want to avoid wrinkles. That's pretty obvious, right? So one way to avoid wrinkles is to avoid what's in this photo. I see it happen all the time at laundromats when they're doing wash and fold, where they're just yanking stuff out of the dryer and throwing it. They do it kind of like how I do it at home, which is I just throw the clothes into the basket. And then what happens in that situation are the clothes are going to get wrinkled. So the way to do it is when you unload the dryer, it's really important to keep your clothes flat. And so you can see on the left, as we're unloading the dryer, we're putting the shirts and we're stacking them up on top of each other. We're keeping everything straight. We're not rolling things into balls and throwing it, because as those things dry, they will get wrinkled. So this is a really good system that's worked well for us. And if you notice, even while we're doing this on the baskets, we even have them tagged with the order number right there. So I'll go more into detail as far as how to manage the process, how to keep every order organized, because I can't stress that enough. The number one mistake that happens in wash and fold is orders get mixed up. And anybody who hasn't mixed up orders is lying to you, or they haven't done it yet. So it is just so important, because every wash and fold customer in store for us is worth about $330. So per year. Okay, they're spending at least $330 per year, and on average. So if you mix up two orders, you can't just mix up one, it's always two. If you mix up two orders, you run the risk of losing close to $660 a year. So that's a chunk of money. So it's really important to keep every order separated. We'll go into detail on that. As far as the plastic bags, we get our plastic bags from Sudsies. So they're a local vendor, family owned. Really good company. And you'll notice these are our bags at Super Suds, and we like it nice and tight. The tighter, the better, because that way stuff doesn't move around. If your bag is loosey-goosey, by the time they throw it in their trunk and they take it out and it moves here, moves there, it's going to be all over the place. And the customer is paying for it to be folded. And if they have to fold it again, then it's not really wash, dry, fold anymore. So you want to keep it nice and tight. In addition, I've got this kind of zoomed in. We use those wire, forget the name for them, but those zip ties or those wires. They sell those at Sudsies as well. So we put the order in there, we push down on it, we clamp up, cinch up the rubber plastic bag, and then we use that wire to kind of zip tie it together. The other part of the presentation is your ticket. Are you using a handwritten ticket or a professional receipt? Another thing you'll notice on the ticket is it says how many bags it is. Is it 2 bags? Is it 3 bags? A very common mistake that happens is somebody comes to pick up their order and your attendant gives them back a bag or 2, and they get home and they're like, I'm missing a lot of my clothes. And you're like, oh, there's still a bag over here. And they have to drive back to the laundromat, pick up that extra bag, and they're going to give you a 1-star review because that wasn't very convenient. And they paid a lot of money for convenience. So that's something to keep in mind. You need to have the number of bags on the ticket. So that way, right on the ticket, it says 3 bags, and you're able to give them back all 3 bags. So with our software and I'd say most laundry software, it should have that in there, but that's just one thing that's really, really key. So we also provide the wash and fold bag, or the laundry bags. So we get these over at Cleaner Supply. Cleaner Supply, I think, sells everything supply wise. And yeah, really good company. And we use the 30-inch by 40-inch ones that you see right over here. And you can see we also wash them. So this purple bag, once we're done with it, we actually launder it because I don't want to give somebody back a dirty bag. So this way everything is nice and clean when it gets returned. In addition, if you're selling the bags to customers, and we sell them for $7.50 each, but it's probably time to raise our prices on that. Then you want to make sure you have a different color bag that you sell to your customers. And I mean a different color bag than the ones you use internally. So the reason for that is if you're using purple bags and you're selling purple bags, what winds up happening is you're going to wind up keeping your customer's bag or giving away your bag without the customer paying for it. So we know if a customer gives us a purple bag, we know they paid for it because we use green bags. Okay. And you're going to say, well, why do you even use bags? Well, sometimes customers give you their clothes in like not so good containers that are falling apart, that have holes in them. So that's why it's really important to have bags on the premises. So you could transfer the customer's clothes over to a sturdy bag that will make sure they don't lose their clothes. So yeah, once again, you need 2 different color bags, and they're a good thing to sell. And then as far as what goes on your bag, you want to have your logo on there, you want to have your address on there. If you're doing pickup and delivery, you want to say schedule your next pickup at supersuds.com or the name of your website. And I'm not sure the exact cost. Somebody just asked, what's the cost of the bag customized with the name and the logo? I know the bag by itself is $2.50. I believe it's about $5 each. So if you get it all decked out. All right, so over here we have binning and order. When you first start with wash and fold, most likely what's going to happen is somebody drops off their clothes, and right after they walk out the door, you're going to just put their clothes into the washing machine. And so you don't really need a whole system in place, but it is good to have a system in place because sometimes at 5 o'clock, everybody comes in at one time. And if you don't have a system in place and you just throw both of them into the washing machine, that's when problems happen. All right. I've even seen YouTube videos by laundry professionals who've been doing this for a while. And they say, oh, I only do one order at a time. Okay. That's because they don't have a system. So it's really important to have a system. So what happens is we put the clothes into the bin, like I showed you before. The reason we use a bin is you could see that photo on the right, that trash bag has a hole in it. That came from the customer, or they give you a big straw basket and you don't want that big straw basket in your back room. So it's just easier to transfer it to it. And then if you're just stacking the bags of clothes on the ground, which, we used to, and a lot of places may not have the space. So you got to do what you got to do. So, but what happened to us is sometimes the bags would tip over, socks would fall out. And if somebody else got somebody else's sock, all it takes is one sock or one undergarment. And it's always the small pieces that escape. And if that winds up in somebody else's order, it's actually not the person who lost their underwear that's going to be complaining. It's going to be the person who gets somebody else's undergarment with their order that is really grossed out, and they're going to question everything. So it's so important. That's why we use the bins, is that way if something falls out, which happens, it's not getting separated from the order. We also number all of our shelves. And in our software, it says Joe's order is on shelf 23. So we're tracking each order from beginning to end. So we know exactly where the order's at, who washed it, who laundered it, what machine was used, everything. And so that's really helpful. In the very beginning, we had to have customers find their own clothes in the back room. I mean, once we got busier and we didn't have software to manage it, so we needed some way of managing it all. So this goes into tracking each order. And somebody just asked, what size bins are those? I'm not sure offhand, but I do know we got them at Costco. So that's, They sell them at Costco. They also sell similar ones at Home Depot. Okay, this one is completely essential. This, you need to label every order while it's being washed and dried. Okay, once again, the most common mistake is orders get mixed up, and that happens at different times in the process. And so over here, this is one of our clients, the Dirty Hamper. This is the guy is just crushing it in wash and fold and pick up and delivery. And so that's what he's using. He just laminated some paper and he could use dry erase markers. And then on the right, we're using magnetic signs. So we just went to a sign company that could print on magnets, and you could do dry erase on that as well. And we just write the order number on it. In this case, we actually just tape the ticket onto it as well. And a very important part of this sign to label it is please do not remove. So that is essential, because what winds up happening is your attendant gets busy, they're doing other things, and then somebody comes along and they see an abandoned order. But if it's labeled with the brand of your laundromat, so they know, hey, that belongs to Supersuds. Maybe I don't want to mess with that because that's the store I'm at. And it says, please do not remove. So that's a totally different thing than just removing a abandoned order, and it works. I mean, not every time, but almost every time. So it needs to say, please do not remove, and you want it branded. Then we have the order number on there. In addition, here's another area where orders get mixed up. And I know I'm harping on the mixed up orders things a lot, but if you do it right, it's going to help you. It's going to help you get loyal customers, and it's also going to help you avoid one-star Yelp reviews. Because if those one-star Yelp reviews could just ruin it for everybody, because somebody sees that and then they go to the next place on Google when they're looking for the service. So your online reputation is so important. So over here, we have the order number on there. And here's how one way of avoiding mixed up orders. Your attendant needs to not work on two orders at the same time. They need to first load up the machines, and let's say it's Bob's orders. So it's best to put Bob's order in there, label the machines, and then move to the next order, which may be Sally's order, and then label the machines. Same thing when moving it to the dryer. Don't move Bob and Sally's orders at the same time and hope you remember which order's in the middle. A lot of times attendants think they're saving time because you're going to not lie to yourself, but you're going to say, oh, I'm going to remember. And then you remember until you don't. And it's so easy to forget whose order is in the middle. So don't even take the chance. You don't want to, there's no upside, and you risk losing $600 a year. So you just got to be real, kind of not strict, but just, you really need to emphasize, this is how we do it. First load one order, label it, then go and do the next order. And again, the same thing with folding. So just keep the orders separated in that regard. This over here, I went on one of the Facebook groups and asked about machine tracking, because this part is really, really important for a variety of reasons. Number one, it helps you keep track of which machines they're using. Number two, it also keeps track for your own records. So you could keep track of which attendant laundered whose clothes. And it becomes important. There's a lot of downstream benefits. Like if somebody's order gets messed up or this or that, and you don't know who worked on it, good luck trying to find out who worked on it, because nobody's going to cop up to it. And so this helps you talk to that person, provide better training. And then, so it also is important to know how much money they're spending on wash and fold as well. We'll get a little bit more into that as well. But even if you're, I've got a slide on payment options. Let me skip to that. Okay, so one question is, how does your employee pay for the wash and fold? And so one way is you give them cash. So my recommendation is to get cash out of their hand as soon as possible, because it's just going to, it's just too tempting for people to line their own pockets. So that's something I highly recommend, is getting cash out of their hands. So are you using a card system? Are you using an app? So those really help you decrease the chance of loss. That being said, if you have an employee who's making $12 an hour and they have a card or an app that could start at an $8.50 machine, that's a lot of temptation. So one thing we do to help minimize that is machine tracking. So it's really important to track every order, or actually every time they use a machine, to an order. And that goes back to those machine tracking handouts that, and a lot of laundry owners use spiral notebooks to keep track of which machines they're using. And then that way you're able to track, okay, they spent $30, but they did all these different orders. And so I'll go ahead and go back to these sheets. So that's one way of doing it. These are actually pretty fancy. Most places who are tracking the machines are doing it on spiral notebooks, and then they pay their manager to decipher it all because there's a lot of information there. And again, how often are you going to even audit all the stuff? So what we did in our software is we do the machine tracking automatically. So you can see on the top, it just says add dryer, add washer, and then it already knows which employee it is. And then as the owner, and the software is in the cloud, so you could access it anywhere. As the owner, you could see down below, you could see the machine tracking results. And so I could see on order number 19 at the bottom, on a $17 order, I mean, this is kind of made up data right here, but on a $17 order, the employee spent $15. And I find that easily because I could see the percentage of, this percentage is way too high. They spent too much money for the size of that order. So rather than looking through pages and pages of notes to see, making sure, they're using the right equipment mix, we're able to easily see, making sure that they're using the right amount of machines for that size order. And so that's one thing just to keep in mind is, we have a nighttime shift because we do a lot of pickup and delivery. So we pick up a bunch of clothes, and then at 10 o'clock at night, we shut down the laundry to the public, and we're doing laundry all the way until 7 in the morning, doing thousands of pounds. And so one time we went at nighttime to just kind of check up on things, and our attendants were bringing in, don't tell anyone, but they were bringing in their laundry bags into work. So what's going on there? So if you're not tracking the machines and the orders and when they're using the machines and tying that to an order, it's just very tempting that they're doing their personal laundry while they should be working, or they're doing their friends' laundry while they're working. So you just want to make sure you have the right controls in place just to avoid temptation, because most people are honest, but you don't want that one person who's gaming the system to lower morale because the other employees get jealous. Like, why does she do that when I don't? This right over here is productivity. And this goes back to that machine tracking. On those machine tracking forms, it does say how many pounds is each order. And again, with software, it's all automatic, but it is something you do want to track. And if somebody's dedicated to doing wash and fold without distractions, they could do between like 250 to 300 pounds, but at least over 200. Sometimes if you push for too many pounds, mistakes start happening and you'll start seeing that. So then it's like, okay, you know what? At Supersuds, we're happy at 250 pounds during an 8-hour shift. And a lot of people have all different numbers. So I don't even feel fully comfortable saying our numbers, because some people say, oh, we could do 500 pounds. And it's like, really? So everybody's going to have different numbers, but you want to know what your numbers are. In addition, if you're doing wash and fold, if you're just getting started, it's probably the same attendant who's on the floor doing it, and they will be getting questions from customers, and that comes first because the customer is right there. And there are a lot of distractions, as you know, so you can't really compare these numbers to an attendant who's manning the floor. So it's really important just to, keep that in mind. These numbers are for people who are just doing wash and fold. And the 200 pounds, the 250 pounds I was talking about is during an 8-hour shift. So, and a big part is folding. Folding is labor intensive. And I do see people Sometimes they're pricing it based upon wash and fold, thinking, well, my attendant is there anyway, so this is just extra money. But later on, when this turns into a business and you're bringing in all these, you have to hire a second attendant for the same shift to do laundry, then it's no longer just extra money. You really need to make sure that wash and fold maths out on its own. So you don't want to be undercharging. You want to come up with a fair price. Gratuity. So right over here, this is so important. It is really hard to hire people right now, as you know. And that may be changing in the future, but regardless, you want to make sure your software allows you to take in tips, or if you're doing just a simple accepting credit cards or so, you just want something to accept tips. We at SuperSuds, because of tips, and customers are really, really generous, especially on pickup and delivery. Some people are just putting in $10 tips and $20 tips, but people are generous. They're appreciative more than ever before of people who are working. And as a result of tips, our employers are getting a whole extra dollar per hour more because of tips. So that is a real, real blessing. And that helps with employee retention. Because if you have a good employee, you want to, you want to basically take care of the guys you have. Something else on tips I want to mention, there's different ways we don't do the tips per order. And the reason being is then that way the attendants will just grab the orders with the biggest tips, and then somebody else is waiting, or they might do something special for that order that and then they'll say, well, hey, why didn't you do that special thing this time? And it's, oh, you didn't tip. So we try and avoid that. We want every order treated special. So the way we divvy up the tips is we do it by pounds laundered. So that's another reason to just keep track of how many pounds they're laundering. And so I would just come up with a fair way of splitting up the tips. In addition, we use tips as a way of incentivizing. So in order to qualify for tips, you could, you need to do this, or you need to show up on time, or you need to do this. So for the next 2 weeks of tips, we divvy that out to the people who qualify for the tip. Okay, so the tickets. The tickets are a very valuable part. That's part of the presentation. And on the top left, you can see what our what our tickets used to look like. And is handwritten, you'll see crossouts. I mean, there we did say 4 packages, so that was good. But in the full picture, it actually had 38 pounds and it crossed out, and then it's 39 or something reversed. And so it just wasn't very professional. And it's really easy to not get the customer's phone number or this or that. And you need that information. So again, you really want to, it's part of the presentation. You want to have professional tickets with your logo on there. You need to print out the preferences. So we say use all free and clear. You can see that right there. Because not only is it important to follow the customer's preferences, it's important to convey that you followed their directions, because otherwise they're going to question it. Like, did you remember to use free and clear? And so if it says it right there on the ticket, it helps provide that assurance. In addition, we get our tickets from Cleaner Supply, and on the back, you could get the thermal ticket paper with some legal stuff on the back that helps minimize your risk. So it has terms and conditions, and it helps protect you from somebody. It basically says, we don't owe you any more money than the total cost of the order. So there's a lot of things on there that help protect you. That's automatically printed with every ticket. Here's one question, especially if you're getting started, is do I have my customers pay up front, or do I have them pay when they pick up their clothes? And the much better way of doing it is pay when you drop off your clothes. We call that pay now. And the reason why that's important is because that way you're guaranteed to get paid. And secondly, they're much faster at picking up their clothes than when they pay at pickup. Because the pay at pickup people might not have any money on them, or they might be waiting for another paycheck. So that pay at pickup, those guys, those orders sometimes just languish and linger at your laundromat. And if you're like us, you could never have enough storage space. So if you want to keep your storage space, minimized and not have one order just sitting there for a long time, that's why you should have customers pay up front. And if you currently are doing pay at pickup, you may want to consider stopping that or just grandfathering your existing customers over. A lot of laundry owners have a tendency, they don't want to tell customers not to pay at pickup when they already got used to it. So if you're starting fresh, do it the right way, have them pay upfront. The second thing is we also allow people in our software to keep their credit card on file. So we call that express pay. So you look up a customer, you say, "Hi, Bob," and you bring up his profile and it'll show just like that green thing right there. It says use Visa ending in 0027. So you could ask Bob, "Hey, you want to use the credit card you have on file?" And those customers are way more loyal. I mean, imagine if you're going to Starbucks and you could go to Starbucks and you ask for a coffee and they just hand it to you and you walk out the door. That's what express pay is like, versus going somewhere else and you have to pull out your wallet, you got to wait around, and it just takes a lot longer. So one question is, how often do people pay and not pick up? So it actually happens more than you think. I mean, not a ton, but maybe once a month, twice a month. And we do have in our software, we text people once the order's done. The software automatically texts them like 3 or 7 days later, at 14 days, at 21 days. It says the messages start getting more and more stern. Like at 30 days, we reserve the right to donate your clothes to charity. And we really hold on to it for a little bit longer than that. But so the software does the dirty work in a way, because we used to call customers and keep calling them and say, "Hey, could you pick up your clothes? Could you pick up your clothes?" So now it's just automated, and that used to be a whole job. And yeah, so we do donate quite a bit of clothes throughout the year to charity. Over here, we've got cash versus credit card. Very important to accept credit card. So this is at 1 month at our laundromat in store. We take in about $2,500 or $3,000 a month in cash for wash and fold. But take a look at the credit card. People like paying by credit card. So we're doing about $17,500 in credit card transactions. So it's a huge upgrade. I don't care if you get our software or Square or just something to accept credit cards, but if you don't accept credit cards, you should. How does the customer tip when using a credit card on file? So in our software, you can have it memorized. When the customer, they actually interact with the kiosk and they could tap 15%, and then a button comes up, says, "Do you want to save that preference for future orders?" So you could do it that way as well. A big part of wash and fold is even more than self-service. It's a different product. You're now in the service industry, and the customers have different expectations. So self-serve, you keep the place clean, you keep the machines working, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's important there. But in wash and fold, you're now moving into more of the service industry. And I'll tell you a little bit about what I mean. It really goes a long way if you can remember the customer's preferences. And so again, in our software, but it's other software too. That's why you need to go with something made for laundromats, not something generic. It usually has a way of remembering the customer's preferences. So in this picture, it says extra downy, Bob. And so that's, if you ask the customer in the software, it'll tell you extra downy. But again, it's always good to convey that to the customer, because they don't know your software knows it. So that you go, "Hey, you want extra downy like last time?" And the customer gets real excited, like, "That's why I come here, because you guys know who I am, and they have a relationship with you." So that's very, very important. The flip side of the software is keeping a history of the customer. So you could look up a customer's history, and if you're just using paper tickets, and maybe I should have started with that, but I really don't believe paper tickets is the right way of going. I mean, it's just, people really elevated their game. And we used to do paper tickets with the triplicates, but it's a mess. There's so many mistakes that could happen, with handwriting and It's just, and then if you lose that ticket, good luck. You don't have customer history. And speaking of customer history, we just had a situation where a customer said, I'm really, really upset. I asked for my baby clothes to be hung and the adult clothes to be folded. And that was interesting. And we did it reverse. So I don't know how that happened, but it got reversed. And the customer was really upset. And it's just an odd request. But that's fine. That was her request. And the customers are paying to get the clothes done the way they want it. So what we did was we looked at this customer's history. And it turns out this customer spends like $150, $100 like every 2 weeks. They're a really, really good customer. So who cares about whether they're right or we're right, or we made a little mistake. And so we offered her a $50 store credit. So if a customer's upset and the sorry doesn't go far enough, store credit is a way to go, because then they come back to your laundromat. And again, the software, you could add store credit to their account, and then it automatically gets applied to it. It automatically emails them that, hey, you now have store credit. But regardless, we gave her a $50 store credit and she was ecstatic. So, and to us is a no-brainer because she's spending thousands of dollars with us every year. So, and then the flip side is if a first-time customer comes in with a ridiculous complaint, you might not be so generous because they might just be trying to game the system, right? I mean, what's the chance they're complaining the first time they ever came there? And if you don't have a way of knowing how, if it's a long-time customer or a first-time customer, then it's very hard to make these decisions. Over here, this is same-day service. I recommend charging extra for same-day service. We charge an extra 25 cents per pound. And even when you first start, it's a lot of places have the temptation of saying, well, I could get it done same day anyways. Maybe they'll come back here more often if it's same day. So I might as well do it. And then you get in the habit of doing same day service. But guess what? If you're doing the website and you're doing all those things, you're going to get busier. And then later on, you're not going to offer same day service. And that customer you thought you were hooking up, you actually trained to expect same day service. So what I recommend is don't offer same day service unless they pay for it. So don't even tell them the laundry's done until the next day. And if they want it the same day, then have them pay an extra quarter per pound. And again, we're in our software, like one of the common mistakes is if you do charge an extra 25 cents per pound, most of the time your attendant is not going to charge them. I know this. And so in our software, if you choose the pickup time and day to the same day, it automatically adds that 25 cents or whatever amount you choose. And it's just automatic. So when things are not automatic, they tend not to happen because the attendant doesn't want to be the bad guy and say, oh, that'll be cost extra. As far as hiring employees, some of our sources are Indeed.com, Facebook.com, Snagajob.com. I'm going to be interviewing Kent Wells on my podcast coming up in a couple weeks. So that podcast is at youtube.com/curbside laundries. But I just want to tell you kind of sneak preview of what's going to happen on that, because he's got some really good systems that I've tried firsthand that work. Number one, he does a pay range. So if you're hiring somebody at $12 an hour, he'll put a range on there on Indeed.com saying $12 to $15 an hour. And then when they call, you could ask, well, do you have folding experience? Have you worked at a laundromat before? No. Okay, well, we're going to start off at 12, but work your way up. And or $13, whatever it is. But by doing a range, it'll get you more phone calls. It'll get you more return on your advertising dollars to find an employee. The second part that was just brilliant that he had is he refers to his employees as internal customers. So once again, that's internal customers. He refers to his regular customers as external customers. So he sees it as, if I keep my internal customers happy, I'm going to make more money. And that was a big aha moment for me, because I realized, sometimes egos clash with owners and employees, like, hey, you should do what I say, or this or that. And you might treat somebody differently. Like, hey, I just expect you to do it, right? But then, or, but if you're looking at it from the term of, hey, if I keep that employee happy, these are the things that are important to that employee, that goes a long ways, and your retention is going to go way higher, and you're going to make a whole bunch more money, because it takes a lot of time to train somebody, to get somebody up to speed on folding clothes quickly and being good with the customers, all those things. And it also takes a lot of time to hire people, because a lot of people who are looking for jobs, they're not really looking for a job. They're looking for an interview so they could tell the unemployment office, I'm looking for a job. So they don't show up. And that's another thing. I never meet an employee at Supersuds unless I text them ahead of time or they text me. So when I'm scheduling an appointment, I tell them, we've had a number of no-shows. So I'm only going to show up at Supersuds if you text me an hour, a few hours before our appointment, or I text you to confirm. And that way I'm not driving all the way out there and then it's a no-show, shame on me. So this way, if you text them ahead of time, you get their confirmation, then that way when you go there, you're not wasting your time. And it could also gives the employee an opportunity to demonstrate that they're responsible. And you could even tell them, like, if you text me, that's bonus points, and because that shows they took initiative. This is for dry cleaning. And I recommend only doing dry cleaning if you're doing pickup and delivery. And the reason why, and by saying doing dry cleaning, I'm assuming you're outsourcing dry cleaning to a dry cleaner. And I've got a podcast on that as far as how to create the relationship with the dry cleaner and all that. So we could do a deep dive on that later. But the reason why you shouldn't do it if you're only doing it at the store is because somebody's going to bring in one laundered and pressed shirt, and you don't make any money on those. You make the money on the dresses and the pants and the other garments. The dress shirts are the loss leader. And so somebody will just bring in one or two shirts. You're making like 50 cents or a quarter. And then by the time you drive to the dry cleaner and all that, you're losing money. And with pickup and delivery, you're able to say, hey, there's a $35 order minimum, and they're not going to give you 35 dress shirts. They're going to give you a mix of stuff, including wash and fold. So because of the order minimum, that's one of the reasons where dry cleaning could be pretty lucrative and could help you get additional customers. And the good news is you don't have to do the work. You could just drop the clothes off at the dry cleaner. So I do like dry cleaning. I just don't want you to get stuck in it if you're only doing in-store wash and fold. And we're just kind of wrapping up here, but this on top is the folding board. So if you're like me and you can't fold clothes, that's one way of doing it. They sell it on Amazon. And, I brought it into Supersuds, but they kind of laughed it off because it was fast for me, but for them, that took way too long. But if you need some additional assistance with folding, that's one option. The other thing you see on the bottom is helping hands. So if you're folding sheets, what we found at Supersuds is when we had two of our attendants working together, they were able to fold sheets more than twice as fast because one person could grab each hand. But if you got one person, or you just want everybody to be independent, that's a pretty good little device that allows one person to be really efficient. And that goes into, if you're doing the Airbnb or hotel business. And that, one of our things to keep in mind is we are in the low volume, high margin business. So I see some laundry owners really excited because they get a 100-bed hotel, but it's just a matter of time until they find out that somebody like Cintas could do it for a lot cheaper. Okay. So our sweet spot for hotels are like 20 beds or less. We're, these huge accounts with real low margins, let somebody else get those. We're all about the high margin and lower volume, but it's good volume for us. And the nice part about commercial accounts, they're consistent. They wind up giving you more pounds. So once again, on your website, I would focus some effort on getting those commercial accounts because those are really good to get. And they're, but the residential we found is our bread and butter, and the commercial accounts are the icing on the cake. But yeah, so they're both terrific. And then some additional resources. This is on something very valuable. I learned a ton on Facebook from other laundry owners, like, from everybody has something you can learn something from. And the great part about Facebook is you might have a question about something, how, an error code or this or that, and you could post on Facebook and you're going to get a bunch of responses. So it's like you're just connected to the entire community. And these groups have like 2,000 people on them. So there's the Laundromat Owner Showcase, the Laundromat How To, Laundromat Owners. I mean, there's probably like 2 or 3 other really big ones. And I recommend joining. I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be on Facebook if it wasn't for Curbside Laundries or, Super Suds or these Facebook groups. But that alone makes it worthwhile for me. And that really wraps it up. So once again, on curbsidelaundries.com, you could see some of the webinars done in the past. Some are focused just on commercial laundry. Some are focused just on how to get started with pickup and delivery. And then I'm doing a podcast where the goal is to have 5-minute videos, each one with a takeaway. And that's at youtube.com/curbside laundries. And then once again at Curbside Laundries, we do the in-store point of sale, pickup and delivery, and then also the Laundromat website that's dialed in to help you grow your business. And then you got my email address right there, phone number. I love talking shop. So if there are any additional questions, you could also reach me that way as well. And just want to open up to questions. I did get a number of questions during the presentation. I tried answering them as we're going along, but if you do have questions, feel free to use that. And also just want to thank Brad and the people at PWS because I really appreciate the opportunity to get to speak to every one of you. All right, so just got a question. Do you have a dedicated parking for drop off and pickup customers? So that's a great question. So we were thinking about doing something like that. I've seen it at restaurants where you got the curbside parking, like at Applebee's, it'll say curbside parking and you just park right there. And I guess technically it's possible. Now I've got a whole process on how you could do that, using our software, or, one way is you'd have a phone number. You need to have a phone number and just say text us. And then when the customer texts you, you have the customer's phone number. So if you do that, I think it's a great idea because that way, if they don't want to go into the laundromat, you could technically just pick it up from their car or put it in. But yeah, we have the customers come inside the laundromat, but that is something that is feasible. And when the customer texts you, you have the phone number and you can look them up that way. And finally, on that point, I would use a Google Voice number. That way you could have Google Voice run on the phone, run on the computer or the point of sale. And you could also share that text message number with multiple employees. So that is one way of accomplishing that. And then what size?
Matt, two questions.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Two questions. Well, one, this was fantastic. I really, really appreciate it. But what would you say to a laundromat owner that says, my area, my demographics, they're not right for wash and fold? Are there certain areas where you haven't seen it work, or you've seen it work everywhere? That would be the first. And the second is, you guys have an incredible business for your wash and fold business. If someone was going to say, give me can I dip my toe? Can I try this out with, I'm going to make an investment, I'm going to do this, but I can't go all the way in. I don't have the funds to do it right now, but I really want to give my full effort into this, and I want to really try. Is there like a 2 or 3 things to say, hey, this is the minimum you got to do to really get this off the ground. And if it starts working, then you can move to phase 2 and phase 3.
Such great questions. Number one, my area is not right for wash and fold. I would say it's really hard to know and I don't think there's any demographic report that's going to give you the answer on that one. I'd say a lot of times, just keep in mind, everybody spends their money differently. On pickup and delivery, which is even more expensive than in-store wash and fold. In my mind, before we started doing it, I was thinking, oh, that's going to be homes, along the beach. And sometimes it is, because to me, it's a lot of money, and, it's $1.80 per pound, and average order size is $70 on pickup and delivery. In store, you're looking at about $30 because the average order size in store is about 20 pounds. But the reality is, at least on our pickup and delivery, half of our customers have apartment numbers on their address. And a lot of them are pretty close to the laundromat. I mean, not all. I mean, we go all over, but in some of the places are not the best neighborhoods. And our laundromat's in the middle of it's downtown Long Beach. So you would question whether people have discretionary income for this. But again, everybody spends their money differently. They've got, and I've talked to so many most laundromats are not in the best neighborhood. You know, the laundromat in Beverly Hills, actually, I haven't seen that one, but, but people are doing really well with wash and fold. You know, there's both the residential and commercial. So I haven't really found a place that that's not right for wash and fold, unless you're just in a rural area and there's just not a big enough population to support it. You know, that would be that. But yeah, that's, so I'm sure there are some places where it just doesn't take off. But then I'd question, did it not take off because they're only marketing it to the people in the store, or did it not take off because they didn't market it correctly? And I just really believe that if you market it right and you have a strong online presence, people are going to find you. So, and that kind of segues into the next question. Can I try it out, but not all the way? And we get that a lot, because some people are like, well, I don't really need software until I'm making X number of dollars, right? So, and so that's where, if people are like, I'm going to wait and just kind of start off. Well, the thing is you already paid for the machines. That's a big chunk of money. You already paid for the lease space, the property, the signs. You're in it. You don't really have your toe just in the water if you have a laundromat. You're in it. Now the question is, do you want to maximize that opportunity? And so you can just kind of wait for things to grow organically, but you could be waiting a while. In fact, I just got a Facebook message from somebody. Let me just bring it up real quick. And he basically said to me, let me just bring it up real quick because it kind of goes to that point. So let me just bring it up. Yes, so somebody just wrote, one of our clients just emailed me today. He goes, "Hi, Matt. Hope all is well. We love the curbside point of sale and website. In the past 3 months of having it in place, we are exponentially growing our wash and fold pickup and business too. Great stuff. Looking forward to even more growth." Okay, so depending on how competitive your area is, sometimes it takes longer or shorter time or longer to really rank well and all those things. So it's not like you just get the website and you got all this business. But if you really want to take it to the next level, you need that online presence. And if you're just waiting for that business to happen on its own, and I'm talking about next level stuff, not just getting the walk-ins from, who saw the banner in front of your laundromat. I'm talking about the online traffic. So I really believe like you need to get into it. And like, if you want to grow it to this level, and again, if you're just waiting around for things to grow, maybe. But I'll tell you this, the guys who are making about $2,500 a month gross without the web presence, when they do get the web presence, they tend to grow a lot more. So, I mean, there is that. You could get an indicator how well things are going. But me personally, you already have these monthly expenses, and I try and figure out, how do I maximize this opportunity?
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. And then as far as the size of the sudsy bags that we order, and I'm not sure if they're talking about the clear plastic bags. You can ask for the same ones that Super Suds orders. We typically use ones that are rectangular in shape, so they take up less shelf space. So then that way they go deeper in the shelf versus squares. And so that tends to work well for us. I do hope, if you're not doing wash and fold, I hope you get into it. because we had no idea. Like our laundromat does very, very well. And it was just such a blessing to like adding wash and fold. Now that does more than, the wash and fold and the pickup and delivery actually makes more than the laundromat. So it's all good. And the businesses complement each other very, very well. And I was talking to Brad before this presentation, and the way I see it is the self-service is your bread and butter. That's just clockwork. People are coming in, and those are the easiest customers to acquire are the self-serve. They're just so happy your laundromat's there. They got nice, clean machines. And then the self-serve helps fund the wash and fold because it costs money to be attended. And being attended is a good thing. It helps your ranking. It helps customer appreciation. And then the in-store wash and fold help fund the pickup and delivery. So we kind of, the businesses really work well together.
Yeah, I have a quick question for you. So I had some technical difficulties getting on at the beginning, which I sorted out. So if you already addressed this, I apologize. But is there a recording of this that's going to be posted?
Just email me. This is Brad Steinberg. Just email me if you would like a recording, and I will email you that recording.
Okay, thanks, Brad. And quickly, what's your email address?
I'll put it in the chat so you have it, but it's bsteinberg@pwslaundry.com.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, one thing to consider, if you really can't have enough storage space. So storage space is a premium for wash and fold, and there's different techniques to get the clothes in and out, and that's something as well. We provide consultation to help, because you're going to have growing pains at different stages of wash and fold. One, when you're first starting off, two, capacity. And we have a lot of techniques to like, okay, I'm running out of space. Okay, maybe it's time to open up a nighttime shift. Or how do I get the clothes back to the customer faster? So we're still going through growing pains at Super Suds. But so we've kind of been there, done that. But that's part of the fun. I mean, that means you're growing. So it's all good stuff. And we are, all of us here, we're just so blessed to be in the laundry business because we learned it's pandemic proof. It's something that everybody needs. We're providing a great service to people. Especially nowadays, people are busier than ever, and you're helping save people time. And it's a service that's really appreciated by a lot of people. So yeah, so just want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar, and thank PWS as well. So yeah, thanks again.
Thank you, Matt. And if you'd like the recording, feel free to email me, and we will hopefully talk to some of you guys soon. Take care, everybody.
Terrific. Thank you.